that's enough solar activity to warrant a coronal mass ejection warning. Also a solar flare warning in effect. Lots going on. And we've turned off the color key here for something different. At the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Crazy number of sunspots, folks. Pushing 140 sunspots, I believe we are at the moment. 2916 is huge, and there are multiple spots where we're likely to see large flares, like up here in the north, down here in the southwest, and down here in the southeast. Here's the colorized magnetogram animation, and you can see quite a bit of activity there. Some of these groups have degraded since yesterday. We're not going to worry about them individually. There's just too much to cover. Spectacular colorized magnetogram imagery of the northern hemisphere here as well. You can see some umbral splitting here, some magnetic fields speeding away from each other. Earth is now in a North Pole current sheet. So plenty to talk about on today's daily space weather video, including electron flux warnings, likely to cause communication and GPS failures. Massive GPS errors should be expected. Here's 94 angstroms, and this is one of the best wavelengths to show solar flaring, and indeed there is a lot of plasma out suspended in between Earth and Sun at the moment. Here's a close-up of some of the stuff going on. And this long sheet feature here, this has been here for a while. Again, there are massive filaments. They're mainly coming out of the northern hemisphere at the moment, but the main activity is in the south. There's sunspot 2916. That's this giant sunspot here. The umbra is about the size of Earth. Quite close, maybe a little bigger. The radio flux is now at 140 solar flux units. And if you're a new viewer, the upper chromosphere and lower corona emit radio frequency, and the flux density of that frequency from that area is the most proportional data set to sunspot number. So here's the 1 year graph of that to put it in context. This black line here, that's the radio flux. The red line below it is the sunspot number. So both of those around 140 at the moment. Serious activity, like solar maximum. So we do have a geomagnetic storm now forecasted for tomorrow on Christmas Eve early in the day. A G1 class geomagnetic storm here, a KP5 expected from the coronal mass ejection strike. It's a little bit of an upgrade there from NOAA, expecting that to hit at 1800 universal time tonight and last into tomorrow, Christmas Eve. So you may see some auroras at southern locations not otherwise expected to see. If you do see auroras, make sure you take video of them, as the UV portion of your camera can sense things that your eye cannot. The same way your camera can pick up infrared signals, your camera can pick up outside the higher portion of the frequency range in the ultraviolet spectrum, which is a large part of the auroral spectra. Anyway, here is the earthquake rundown here. We did see 1.6 magnitude quake near Mexico. We're just going to quickly scroll up the list here as we've got too much to talk about when it comes to solar activity. Also a volcanic uptick. There's that 6.0 that happened at 23:22 universal time. So 37 minutes till midnight universal time is when that one occurred there off the coast of Mexico. Here's a quick look at where it was located. We didn't see any tsunami warnings or anything associated with that. Let's get back to the list. Some deep quakes in various spots like that 4.7 at Vanuatu. And earthquakes continuing here around Petrolia, California. We may have already seen the largest one there. Of course, there was one over a 6 magnitude a few days ago. Continuing on, again, an uptick in volcanic activity. Fagradalsfjall now back on the list. A bunch of seismic activity there. Perhaps Fagradalsfjall, located in Iceland, is considering additional eruptions. Also, Shivaluch now on the Kamchatka Peninsula, now back on the list here. It's producing, through explosive activity, a 13,000 foot plume of volcanic ash. Suwanosejima, 4,000-foot ash plume from the Suwanosejima volcano, Hunga Tonga Hunga A'apai, producing a 34,000-foot ash plume still as it continues to erupt in spectacular fashion. Samisa Pochnoi, exploding 6,000-foot volcanic ash plume there, flight level 060, Fuego flight level 150 over Fuego, that's located in Guatemala, by the way, as it explodes, producing a 15,000-foot ash plume. Nevado de Ruiz exploding, 19,000-foot ash plume over Colombia, as Nevado de Ruiz explodes. Sabancaya exploding, 25,000-foot ash plume from Sabancaya, that's located in Peru. And last on the list is Piton de la Fournaise, located on the island of Réunion, producing about a 7,000-foot plume of volcanic ash there. We'll say 2,000 meters. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Please do visit our links. You can find links to our merch below the video as well as on the homepage of smAshomash.com. Click smAsho merch. Today's featured product is Mensa. Make Earth Not Suck Again. Thanks to everybody who's picked up merch. This is our second bestseller. And you can sort our merch by best-selling or newest on the Explore page, which we were just on in the previous frame. Mensa, Make Earth Not Suck Again. It's up to you. Yeah, that's right, you individual humans. We're calling on you to make Earth not suck again. And if you think that's a political statement or something like that, you're nuts. We are apolitical. I'm just as critical of whoever. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Check out smashomash.com/smashteam. We'll be putting up free publicly visible posts through the new year. There are the latest ones. And you can find links once again at the homepage at smashomash.com. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Let's get to magnetic data. Earth is in a North Pole current sheet. Here are the measurements by the GOES 16 and 17 over the past 3 days. Here's the current sheet, and you can see there is a North Pole current sheet now here at Earth's potential field surface source line as we forecasted yesterday. North Pole current sheet shown here in green, and Earth is likely already in this current sheet here and out of this one here, the South Pole oriented one that we can say goodbye to for a while, as there's quite a bit of magnetic activity here in the southern portion of the sun and the northern portion. It's almost like a solar maximum a couple years early, so we'll be keeping an eye on this. And when I say eye on, pardon the pun. That's the line of sight view. Here's the coronal hole line of sight plot, and you can see a large transequatorial coronal hole system here showing up in green. That is a North Pole oriented transequatorial coronal hole, meaning it passes over the sun's equator. Those are the most geo-effective coronal holes, as the Earth is rather close to the solar equator in its orbital position. Coronal holes are constantly blasting out a high-speed protonic wind. A high-speed coronal hole wind stream, as they're called. And there's actually one striking the Earth geospace now ahead of the coronal mass ejection. So here's one of the best wavelengths to view coronal holes. That is 193 angstroms. A pretty well-defined one up here in the north, and a little bit less defined out here. Again, there is a coronal mass ejection warning in effect, folks. We're expecting one at any moment. And if you're familiar with our forecasting for coronal mass ejections over the past about 1 year, let us know in the comments. Check out all the named groups. We're up to 10 named groups for a moment here on the solar flare probability side of things. And we've got a 2918. So yeah, lots of coronal mass ejection warning and solar flare warning in effect. Expect radio blackouts. Expect a geomagnetic storm. Maybe we'll even get some auroras pretty far south. Fingers crossed. Here's the X-ray flux over the past 3 days. And we've seen multiple M-class flares. 3 M-class flares in the past 3 days there. No significant spikes in the proton flux. One tiny little intensification there. And the real-time solar wind showing some errors. Some major errors. And it looks like we do have somewhat of a signal here. Solar wind, coronal hole wind stream rather, is subsiding. now reaching down toward 500 kilometers per second at 516 kilometers per second for the current solar wind, at least the most current solar wind velocity. Solar wind density still slightly elevated here at around 13 protons per cubic centimeter. That's still pretty diffuse, folks. Imagine 1 cubic centimeter with only 13 protons in it. That's what's going on at Lagrange Point 1, the location of the ACE and Discover spacecraft. So the KP index now only at 1. We're expecting the KP index to come way up here at some point, at least according to the NOAA forecast from the coronal mass ejection strike. The geospace magnetosphere movies are down, folks. I would remind you that you can find a lot of other links to other interesting data down at the bottom of the page. Dashboards, products and data, observations, summaries, and so on all of the Space Weather Prediction Center pages. Sorry, no geospace magnetosphere movies today. You can see it's showing ancient data here from 5 days ago on December 18th. So, could be various reasons for that. We won't worry about it. Let's do a forecast for the solar system. Here's where stuff is now. We've got a gibbous waning moon. And in 7 days, we'll have a crescent waning moon. That's only 2 days before the year 2022. Next, a star chart. Where were you when Cygnus rose? Where will you be when it sets? Well, let me tell you this. Cygnus is going to be up there for a while. And of course, we can advance this to show you where it'll be. If you've never seen this before, it's the all-sky chart at in-the-sky.org. And Cygnus just circles the North Pole because at the other end of the precessional cycle, Deneb is the celestial pole star. And for some reason it's not animating today. Anyway, that's the current situation overhead at my location here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Mars rising ahead of the sun. If you've got a low horizon, you can check out Mars. And perhaps the moon at the same time. And let's take a look at our coronal mass ejection watch. We're going to show you the view from Lagrange Point 5 at Stereo A and Lagrange Point 1 at the LASCO SOHO C3 here on the right. Stereo A here on the left. Again, located at Lagrange Point 5 and Lagrange Point 1. So from this perspective, Earth would be over here, and from this perspective, Earth would be behind you, about 1 million miles. Expect to see coronal mass ejections in the next 24 to 36 hours, most certainly. It's another CME warning. And no, I won't be incorrect. You can call me on it. I will not be incorrect. So today's cosmology segment is going to have a brief little cosmology series of things, starting with the NASA astronomy picture of the day at apod.nasa.gov. We've got Saturn in there peeking through the clouds, as well as something brighter. Not sure if that's Venus or Jupiter. Probably Venus from how bright it is. Also, Comet Leonard down there. I believe that's Comet Leonard right there. Anyway, that's from Turkey by Tunç Tezel. Again, the astronomy picture of the day, a great winter image there. Early here in the winter in Turkey. And let's pick a random number. It's 633, which coincides with this interesting star, X-ray transient type object known as Swift J1713.4-4219, another catchy name. And you can see it's got quite a cyclicity to it over the past 16 years. That's a 16-year graph of its X-ray output. Down here in the lower left, you've got a 30-day chart of the X-ray output of this interesting star, located not too far off the galactic plane. Let's take a look at it here. Here's the galactic plane in gamma ray, and you're not going to see very much image resolution from that, as it is too close. And I'm just going to kind of scroll here and see if we can find a better gamma ray image. There's a great gamma ray image from the Fermi. You can see somewhat of a signal there. Perhaps not super definitive, and I'm just going to kind of click on some of these things here and see if we can find Any better resolution in gamma ray? Not really a gamma ray source, but known as an X-ray source. So there you can see some filamentary stuff associated with it. And I'm just kind of clicking on stuff here because we don't want the cosmology segment to be too long. It's integrated into the daily space weather video. Let's see if we can find this on the shot. Here it is on the Galix. There's the near UV situation. We've got no signal there. How about an optical? So there's the environment in optical frequencies. And a fairly busy part of space there, looking pretty dark. And that's a very high-res scan there. The DR1, pretty good. How about the DSS colored? Again, a pretty dark portion of space there for that X-ray emission source. Here's the 2-mass, the infrared spectra, and we do see a little bit of a very weak, rather cold signal there. Again, that's number 633 on the Neil Garrels transients page, Swift J1713.4-4219. This is what the transients page looks like. Again, number 633. You can link to Simbad and to the CDS portal right from there. Once again, there it is in infrared spectra. That's today's cosmology segment. I wasn't going to even make one, but I couldn't resist. When I look at a random object, I want to share it with you, the viewer. So we've got some charging hazards here caused by electrons on the surface of satellites over places like the Western Indian Ocean. Actually, that's old data. That's from last night. So some more data sources down here. So expect continued communication errors, GPS errors. We could have some high-frequency radio blackouts as a result of solar flares, possible relativistic particles, auroras very far south, all kinds of things in the forecast here for the coming days. A Christmas Eve geomagnetic storm is forecasted. This is the electron flux over the past year. That's part of what can charge satellites. Of course, protons are capable too. There's the 3-day chart, and we just went into electron flux warning. We warned the SMASH team quite promptly about that. And here's the forecast model. We're expecting even higher levels here. So expect some fireworks, expect some breakdowns of communication. Satellite-based communications are going to be seeing some issues most likely here. Here's the total electron content forecast, showing you basically the total electron content for the inner Van Allen belt, the area from about 12,500 miles of altitude from your GPS satellites down to your handset at the surface. And it's quite chaotic. Expect massive GPS errors all around the world at odd times of day. You can see significant errors over most of the planet from the equator north, as well as large errors over places like Antarctica. All those red blobs there, those are abnormally dense electron regions. So quite anomalously significant electron flux here. Big-time GPS errors expected all around the world. Next, the F ionosphere layer located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Here's your ionogram. And huge anomalies continuing here in the ionogram. Wild swings of vibrational frequency happening. This is showing you vibrational frequency in megahertz. Megahertz are millions of vibrations per second. Sadly, the resolution here is only 1 megahertz. And when that plays through, we'll show you the anomalygram. Here's the anomalygram showing you anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Continued anomalies here in the South Pacific around the Drake Passage. And the Drake Passage, one of the weirdest parts on the planet, in my opinion. The equilibrium point between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Water. It's kind of important. Anyway, there's the latest image. That's 12:15 Universal Time ionogram. And there's the 12:15 Universal Time Anomalygram. And now, bonus features. Bonus feature number 1 is the ground-based solar observatory at El Teide, Spain. Again, coronal mass ejection warning and solar flare warning and all kinds of other warnings in effect. It's quite a long description over what's going on. Here's the NASA GOES 16 SUVI imagery. We'll probably be streaming this later. Check it out. There's a crown prominence happening. Another thing associated with solar maximum. So hundreds of sunspots approaching the 150 sunspots number, and at this rate we may see a solar maximum like monthly smooth values as well. Here's the latest colorized magnetogram and intensitygram. We'll take a little trip and look at all these umbrae. Those are more umbrae than I'm willing to count or do the math to figure out how many sunspots that actually is. We'll just say it's about 140. And lots of potential here for major solar flares. Check out the size of that one. Again, that's just the black portion there is about the size of the entire planet. Planet Earth, that is. And some of these northern sunspots are quite capable of producing major flares as well. Yowzers. Some serious activity there. And here are the umbrae, these sunspots in colorized magnetogram, rather. Yowzers. That is a big sunspot. And it is beta class, so it's more than capable of producing major flares. More activity rising up there in the northeast. That doesn't look like a sunspot yet. We'll just say there are lots. There's the zoom out. Just a plage at the moment. And we'll close things out with this composite view, one of my favorites. 171 plus 304 angstroms. Keep your eye to the sky, folks. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted. Name and news.